When I started Ark on Switch back in 2018, I didn't know anything about how to progress in the game. I just saw that you could build bases on giant birds and thought that was amazing. It took me just over a year to ascend the first time, and that was with a great tribe pitching in to lighten the work and help guide me. Recently, with the gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 getting really boring, I wondered how quickly I could ascend on my own. No help, no trades, no gifts, taming everything myself, breeding everything myself, farming, building, collecting artifacts, and beating the bosses all on my own. I started this playthrough like I always do. Gathered a ton of fiber, tripped a couple notes, and crafted thousands of cloth hats. In barely over an hour, I was level 48 with all the engrams I could need to really get started. No struggling through those first dozens of levels, needing this or that and not having enough weight or speed. Next up, I needed a mobile base, so I whipped up the mats for a raft and furnished it with starter stations. However, this was just to get me safe and mobile. Since my focus was to ascend fast, my main base would need to be far more inland where the Megatherium are. But for that, I would need a flyer to get me over the swamp and redwoods. I spotted this level 140 Pelagornis, bulleted it, knocked it, got the chitin for the saddle, and tamed it. Now that I was truly mobile at just 4 hours in, I loaded it up with the bare bones of a more permanent base and flew off to see what land was open. I spotted this nice open flat area near 50/50. It had bees and Megatherium very close by, metal on the mountains on both sides of it, resources everywhere close by, and most importantly, it would be easy to secure with just one line of fences. So I plopped the beginnings of my final base down there at not even 5 hours in. Now that I had a safe central base, I needed flowers to tame bees to get honey for Megatherium. The most efficient way to do this without a berry gatherer that can survive the swamps is to raid beaver dams. Once I had a fair bit of flowers, I just rushed the bees that fly around 50/50. It was a 2x weekend, so it only took 2 feedings. Since I had beehives outside the base now, I finally had to place a fence to keep stuff out. A couple hours later, I had a bit of honey in the hives. The best Megatherium I could find at the redwoods was this junky level 80, but it would do for a starter Megatherium. So I trapped it, knocked it, and tamed it. While I was out scouting for Argy on Redwoods Mountain, I spotted this level 140 Rex, so I trapped and tamed it. It came out with crazy stats for a day 1 Rex. Unfortunately, it was female, so that's an extra step to get its stats onto a male breeder that can then breed with anything to have a chance at great babies, but this was an insanely lucky start for just day 1. Day 2 started out great. While I was walking out of my base, I noticed a 115 Terror right there. That was an easy tame. Now the search for a serious flyer was on. I spotted this 140 Argy on Carno. I trapped it, knocked it, and tamed it. Now that I had a flyer that could carry weight and defend itself, I started searching for high Megatherium. I found a 145 and a 110, and tamed them both. Since I had plenty of honey, I tamed a 125 Direbear too. Since the good Megatherium were all hiding at the start of day 3, I tamed a 150 Direbear. Later, I took a detour to Carno to look for more Rexes and got both a 110 and a 120 into the same trap. The 120 male would finally give me a reliable breeder for my exceptional day 1 female, and the 110 female would give me a reasonable female to breed with later. Later in the day, I spotted a 145 Megatherium, trapped it, knocked it, and tamed it. On the beginning of day 4, I began leveling Megatherium and Swamp Cave. In case you didn't know, you only need 3 pieces of scuba and 2 pieces of ghillie to eliminate the poison gas. It's an exceptionally fast way to level both your Megatherium and yourself, and to find a lot of useful Ascendant loot. Or not. Don't forget to travel up to the artifact chamber and back down again to make the second red drop appear in the red drop room, and to peek back in the blue drop room on your way out to see if the second blue drop decided to appear. Swamp Cave takes about 45 minutes to regenerate all the baddies, so I took this downtime to run Central Cave. With a cryoed Megatherium, most of the land-based caves are really easy. Got in, got the arty, got out in just a couple of minutes. Since Central Cave went so fast, and I still had time before the Swamp Cave regenerated, I figured I'd have time to run Lava Cave. I hate Lava Cave so much. Back before cryopods, I lost more dinos than I care to count in there because most of the jumps are buggy, and a lot of times the jumps don't register, and you fall into the lava. Even with cryopods, and zip lines and all that, the cave still just stresses me out. But I made the jumps this time, got the artifact, and got out of that cave. Central and Lava Caves were so fast that I still had time to wait before Swamp regenerated, so I ran Lower South Cave too. Just like the others, a Megatherium and a Cryopod make these caves too easy. I said hi to the weird wild dodo that's been in this cave for months, got the artifact, and got back to base. All 3 Broodmother caves took around 30 minutes total. Today was the day. I'd leveled up the last 2 Megatherium and Swamp Cave, saddled everything with primitive saddles, took them all down to Red Ob, and it was time to see if this measly bunch of tamed, not even fully leveled dinos was enough to beat the island's first boss, the Broodmother. 6 tamed Megatherium with primitive saddles, 10,000 HP and only between 250 and 350 melee. 3 tamed Rexes with primitive saddles, 15,000 HP and only 200 to 350 melee. And 2 Dire Bears with... I don't even remember what their stats were because I just pumped the cryo levels into HP and expected them to do a little damage before dying. But hey, DPS is DPS. Could this ragtag crew defeat one of the most powerful creatures on this map? Here we go. So there you have it. How many and what type of dinos does it take to beat Gamma Broodmother? At least 6 junk Megatherium, 3 junk Rexes, and 2 sacrificial dire bears. Rest in peace. I had a terrible time keeping the army focused on the Broodmother. They kept peeling off to attack the little spiders. And I had a hard time spreading and keeping the bug buff on the unridden Megatherium. It seemed like it wasn't working. But we squeaked through, bloody as we all were. So just 5 days in, we had won our first boss battle, got our first tech Ingrams and element, and most importantly, our first boss head key to the Overseer fight. We had a very safe base with most of the amenities, reliable transportation and bodyguards, and a solid mother for our Rex line. The next target would be King Kong at home, the island's very own monkey boss. But how long would it take to get that? During my first playthrough of Ark, it took me 9 months to even begin the bosses. Guess you'll have to wait and see in the next video where we attempt Gamma Megapithecus.